This is Garis, Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is part 2 of flyer number 714, entitled The Masculist Takeover of Gender Politics. Continuing straight on. Telling him that masculists have a hatred of gender criminal women who commit these horrible, decades-lasting gender crimes against men will only get his back up, seeing such masculist hatred of gender criminal women as something to be fought against with vigour. Hence my partner's female voice.
Will be rejected completely, I promise you.
So, getting back to the topic of this flyer, how to get men's lib ideas off the ground to combat the deep ignorance, hypocrisy and prejudice against masculist ideas held by the feminists who have had a monopoly of gender politics for 6 decades? The masculists have yet to make major breakthroughs in the mainstream media. Thanks to the manosphere, masculist and MGTOW ideas are starting to penetrate the minds of leading feminist intellectuals who are curious enough and bothered to search on the internet for ideas coming from men on the issues of gender politics. Some of these feminist intellectuals are teachers who talk with their female students, who tell them that young women are watching videos and TikToks coming from the manosphere and are frightened of being rejected by men if, for example, their body count is high or they behave with feminazi arrogance. The fact that in the US today 2/3 of young men don't even date young women, seeing young women as undateable due to being too poisoned by feminism, is terrifying them. There are now hundreds of TikToks of young women in tears as they realise they're not going to get a man, hence will be manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, and spat at by young men who don't want to have relationships with, quote, misandrist, male-dumping, feminazi cunts, quotes, who are viciously rejected by young men, both socially and sexually. I'm guessing that within about 5 years, the tables will be turned on the monoconscious feminists via the following steps. Masculist and MGTOW content creators, makers, such as myself, will continue making their videos, which are viewed all over the world. This will cause millions of young men to be influenced by these ideas. Already, in the English-speaking countries at least, most young men now know that the divorce courts are toxic for men, so choose not to marry, not to have kids. And this MGTOW lifestyle terrifies young women, since they don't want to have to raise kids on their own, which is extremely demanding and usually leads to burnout by the time a single mother is in her 40s. Sooner or later, feminists will be talking regularly about the rise and rise of MGTOW and masculist thinking, to the point that the fem-mafia, that's feminist media mafia, barrier is penetrated, so that MGTOW and masculist ideas finally go mainstream, so that millions of people can be exposed to the core ideas of men's lib. Masculist ideas are stronger than feminist ideas, since women's oppression of men is far worse than vice versa. As masculist ideas spread, this assertion will be believed by millions of more men and women, so that in time it will become generally accepted, so that monoconscious feminists will be painfully rejected by men, and women seen as hypocrites, as bigots, as ignorami, and as morally inferior beings. Masculism, as an ideology, will be presented in more persuasive ways than feminism ever was, for the simple reasons that men are smarter than women at the genius level. Women lack genius. There are no female Beethovens, Einsteins, Kants, etc. Women have won a pathetic 3% of science Nobel Prizes. Women are dumber than men by 4 IQ points on average, and have a 10% smaller IQ variance. So over a whole population, women's IQ scores are more bunched up and men's are more spread out, so that the morons and the genii are males. Men have 20 times more testosterone in their blood than women, so are hugely more aggressive, ambitious, dogged, persistent, so finish difficult tasks more readily than women. It's men who build everything, invent everything, create everything, and it's women who parasite off the cultures that men create. Yet monoconscious feminists trash men for the relatively minor ways that men oppress women, compared to the much more serious ways that women oppress men. For example, the big three mentioned above, brackets, manslavery, divorce, rape, forced fathering, close brackets. Masculists, and men in general, are really pissed off, in capital letters, with the misandry of the feminists, monoconscious feminists, who remain ignorant of the far more serious gender crimes that women commit against men. Masculists see such women as hypocrites and bite their fucking heads off when they come across them, screaming at them to learn some masculism or die rotting on the shelf, rejected by men, certainly by biconscious masculisted men who don't tolerate such women, who don't even pump and dump them. Once the masculist media dam has burst, then the media of all types will be flooded with masculist ideas. Universities will install men's studies courses. Masculist books will be written by the ton. University students of both sexes will become thoroughly biconscious and take for granted the idea that gender oppression is a two-way street, and that all students should be familiar with both feminist and masculist arguments and have the attitude that those students who remain monoconscious will be seen as bigots, as hypocrites, as backward and unworthy of having relationships with. Speaking generally, whenever men turn their minds to something, they always dominate it, for the simple reason that women cannot compete with men at the top end of the performance scale for the reasons given above. Masculists feel that women should be a lot more grateful to men for what men do for women. If men were as useless in manipulating the world as women, then we would all still be living in caves. The misandry of monoconscious feminists is hated by biconscious masculists, who see such women as ungrateful bitches and punish them by totally ignoring them, effectively exterminating them. As the number of masculist books and media reports on masculist ideas keeps piling up, the sheer quality of these works will cause masculist ideas to dominate gender politics. Feminists, monoconscious feminists, will be forced to share the gender political stage with the masculists, and in time the masculists will dominate that stage simply because they are men, having almost a total monopoly over genius level performance that women cannot match. How long will all this take? I'm guessing between 5 and 10 years. I expect to see it happen within my lifetime, and am doing my best to help it happen with my weekly masculist flyers and videos, trying to influence the manosphere influencers. My professorial style just wafts over the head of most manosphere men and most people, so has no influence on them. But the Masculist and MGTOW creators are a far smarter bunch, who do have the IQs to absorb professorial ideas and digest them, allowing themselves to be influenced by them, even if it is rather at an unconscious level. In time, the masculist virus will have infected hundreds of masculist researchers and professors, who will then play a major part in spreading masculist consciousness and thus change history, causing masculism to have as profound an effect on the planet as has had feminism, which led to female careerism, which in turn will free up men from being manslaves to women, working for women, for decades of a man's life, instead of him having many more hours a week to pursue his own dreams. Instead of working full-time at a job he hates to pay for a fluffy, parasitic wife and her kids that she will take with her when she decides it's divorce time. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Brackets. Click on the Masculist tab for 710 plus Masculist essays and their videos. Google the terms London Real and Hugo de Garis to see videos on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people. Do we create our exterminators? ? Professor Hugo de Garis London Real. In brackets. See the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the Masculist segment, as well as Countdown to Extinction, How AI Will Exterminate Mankind, again for the last 40 minutes on masculism. These flyers are available in text and video formats on Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW.tv, X and YouTube. I have nearly 1,000 Masculist videos in 15 playlists on YouTube that can be accessed by searching for the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's all one word. All 1,000 of my Masculist videos in one long list in most recent first time order can also be found on X by searching the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's 4 words. Ciao.